Here's the thing, right? You're a guy like me. You enjoy the whole strip club scene because it's all a fantasy, right? This is something that a lot of people can't get to. They can't wrap their minds around it. But it's all a fantasy. It's all an illusion. There's a stripper that I used to kind of have. I was going to say I hung out with her, but I never really did. But she was really nice. She was what they call a feature dancer. This is going back a little ways, and she would come to my town about, let's say, 3, 4 times a year, and then she'd do a week-long gig. We went out a few times, and we were talking about it once, and she said, it's all fantasy. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, you got the flashing lights, and you got the alcohol, and you have all these beautiful girls with wonderful figures, and they're really there allegedly just to make you happy. And she said the thing is, guys have found out, like, they start going out with strippers in the beginning. It's very glamorous, it's very fun, it's very sexy, but very quickly she just many strippers just turn into the boring girlfriend, especially when they stop with the makeup and they stop with the nail polish and they stop with the hair and they stop with the sexy clothes. It's like, uh-oh, I just got another boring chick on my hands, and then the drama starts. And in another video, I will talk about some of the stuff that actually has happened to guys, right? Because guys don't know, or the average guy doesn't know that, a lot of these strippers, these can be some very angry women, very angry, and a lot of them have been through some pretty horrible trauma. So the anger is certainly understandable. But anyway, so as I said, and it may very well be that I just was not aware of my addiction, right? Because I never really had the consistent kind of money that it takes to really roll in a strip club. Like, there's guys that can go in there and not spend any money, and they make it happen. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how they do it. I don't have any idea how they do it. But, and like I said, I don't have big money now, but I never had the kind of money that sort of kind of makes things really go, like greases the rails, so to speak. But then again, even then, I was able to date more than one stripper. Had a blast. Now, again, you got to remember, when I was engaged, it was a scary thing. It started out one way, very beautiful girl, very, 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 very smart. The sex was good. It wasn't great, but it was good, consistent. But then the other stuff started, and the attacks and this and that, and I lived under a pall of fear the last few months that I was with that woman, and then she kept harassing me and all this kind of business. So part of it was, as I said in the other video, it is a fantasy. It always was a fantasy of mine. I enjoyed indulging it at the level that I could. But then now you have this whole emotional and psychological element coming in, whereas, okay, I'm stumbling away from a very unpleasant long-term engagement with a woman that I told myself I wanted to have her as my wife. And I think that that's why I stuck in there with her for such a long time, given the fact that it was a disaster. Given I actually had people who, nobody believed me at first when I was telling people what the things that she was doing. But after a while, they started to see for themselves that I wasn't making it up, especially after we broke up. And then she still starts calling people and asking for favors using my name as a quote-unquote reference. But I think that's what's happening now is, as I said, I went in there not too long ago, went into one of the clubs, I walked out with like 8 phone numbers. I had never been able to do that before, and only one of them was a dud. And actually, I take that back. Even that one was not really a dud. It's just the woman calls and when I call her that number, she plays like she doesn't speak English, and of course she does. But that's another that's another video in and of itself. But the essence of it is, I have to break this addiction, if you will, because if I don't, I'll be wiped out financially, and I cannot allow that to happen. So I've got to redirect my energies in some manner. I've got to find a way to focus on something to take my mind off of this illusion. And that's what it is. Again, the bright lights, the beautiful girls, the intimate encounters. I've had some wonderful intimate encounters in strip clubs. Why should I lie? Okay? But there's always a price to be paid, one way or the other. Whether it's something as simple as, shit, I just blew the mortgage money. Okay? It's a tricky business. And so right now, the only thing I can see is to find a way to substitute, find substitutes. I'm sorry, little thing in my allergies. Substitutes in terms of time, substitutes in terms of energy. I've dated some of these strippers. Now, the other thing is, there's actually more than one that I've dated recently, and she's just become mercenary. So that's kind of helping me break the addiction, because she's like, you have to give me more money. I'm like, I don't think so, honey. I could be intimate with her, but I think that might be the biggest mistake I've made in many, many moons. So I've had to pull myself back. I've had to drag myself back. Say, okay, look, this she could not be more brazen in her demands for money. And if I make the mistake of really getting intimate with her, and then all of a sudden we're looking at a child support issue, that's a nightmare I don't want to encounter, period. So what I'm saying to myself is, look, you have to back away. And I suppose it's a good thing, because I really enjoy her company in every regard. And yes, she's glamorous. Yes, she's beautiful. Yes, she's exotic. She's had some work done, if you catch my drift. Okay, so, but she's also grasping for money, and that's putting me off. So I think that's a good thing. I think keeping her in my head as to say, okay, it's unwise for me to really get tangled up with this woman, because she's clearly a player. She is clearly all about, I'm going to get paid, or I'm going to get something. So that's been putting me off. It's not pleasant when she acts like this. So I'm actually looking at it as a gift. I can use my experiences with her to say to myself, okay, let's back off. Let's back off. Let's relax. Let's try to do some thinking here, some dynamic thinking, and figure out how to be happy without the groovy female glamour scene.